The Battlefield 5 alpha has so far been a load of fun. Thanks to the EA Game Changer program, I've been able to get access to it from the very start and really get hands-on with what I think will be a superb installment in the Battlefield franchise. Fantastic gunplay, a solid movement system and superb graphics. Battlefield 5 seems to have it all, and we're still only in the alpha. Alphas are for testing certain things, and quite often you can expect to receive a game that will crash constantly and not play well at all. Battlefield 5 is exactly the opposite to that right now, and I'd say that this is probably the best alpha I've ever played, which is a weird thing to say, but if you remember back to the Battlefield 4 alpha, there was actually no textures on that game, and that was really quite basic compared to what we've received in this build, so I'm excited to see how far along DICE are already, considering the game comes out in October, so they've still got quite a bit of time to fix things. In this video I'm going to focus on the graphics, comparing Battlefield 5 to Battlefield 1 and seeing what DICE have done to improve on what they had, and what they can change from the alpha before the main game comes out in October. I'll look at some cinematic gameplay, no HUD gameplay, and then proper in-game highlights. Starting off, let's take a look at the main part of the graphics, the textures, lighting, shadows, and effects. Textures look good in Battlefield 5. As you know, Battlefield games look superb, and considering that Battlefield 5 is still in alpha, what we are seeing is just fantastic. When Battlefield 4 gave us a look through the alpha, there weren't even any textures, as I mentioned before, so DICE are clearly way further ahead this time around. I've got the graphics cranked right up in this video, playing on my new 1080, so I wanted to try out and really strain the card and see what I could get out of Battlefield 5, and I've done the same with the Battlefield 1 footage as well. Battlefield 5 is a very pretty game. I've tried my best to compare it to a snow map in Battlefield 1 as well, just to give you that comparison. Some things to note: the water in Battlefield 5 looks identical to what we had in BF1, which is fine because the water was great in BF1, although you do get the addition of ice floating on the surface on that Narvik map. Obviously some of the ships need some texture work, however for an alpha it does look incredible, and I'd say the textures are just really good. You can turn stuff down obviously in settings. I don't like to run the game at ultra, I like to run it at maybe low or medium on a lot of the settings to maximise my FPS, and obviously C players as well, you want things to be much clearer, but if you turn it up it does look good, so that's great to know as well. Perhaps the biggest thing that people will want to know about is the snow. Whilst the snow falling in front of your face does look cinematic and arguably realistic, it is not conducive to gameplay and needs to be turned right down or even off. Too much clutter on the screen really takes away from the experience, and with the added spotting changes, having more stuff in the way of you clearly seeing targets is bad. I've compared the Narvik map to Volga River in this case, another snow map from Battlefield 1. It is my opinion that the snow looks far more realistic in BF5 with better effects and overall feel. However, Battlefield 5 has that snow particle effect that kind of does most of the work and also gets in the way, and in my opinion, simpler is better, and Battlefield 1 in the current build of each game does it slightly better overall. Lighting and shadows. Some lighting bugs are in the game, however I haven't really had too much trouble with sun flare, despite some other players saying that it's too intrusive on the current build of the game. DICE might need to take a look at that. I think there are a few issues when you look up at the mountains and get blinded by the sun, and DICE should again look at that and either turn it down or off. I'm sure it's just some little bug that they can fix. In Battlefield 1 you also had that annoying lighting issue, whereby you'd be inside a room looking outside and struggle to actually see anything due to the brightness. In BF5 that seems to have gone, however someone did mention that they'd experienced it in game, so maybe I just haven't come across it yet. In my opinion, the biggest problem with the lighting and shadows isn't actually from lighting and shadows, it isn't anything to do with the visibility of the game, it's to do with the HUD and that snow cluttering your vision, and that's why it's difficult to spot things. As for effects, as I mentioned, the snow, very nice effect, but really not something necessary in an FPS game. Explosions are pretty cool. I'd say Battlefield 1 certainly had enough explosions for the devs to get a good understanding of how to improve those effects, and in BF5 I'd say they may have just done that. The effects are slightly different for explosions. They're not overly intrusive to your screen, they're not in the way, but they do look very crisp and nice. Some things aren't quite finished. When the planes crash they don't always explode. Things like that will be changed, of course it's an alpha, but C4 detonating, or dynamite detonating, Panzerfaust going off, planes exploding in midair, take a look at this little clip. It's just awesome stuff to see. Probably the best way to compare the two games is to look at some gameplay, because that's what you'll be seeing when you play the game for the first time if you didn't get into the alpha, or what you'll be experiencing currently. I've got a bit of gameplay with the HUD turned off and graphics turned up to maximum on both BF5 and BF1. Let me know in the comments which one you think looks better as I let them run for about a minute or so.
Jemand Erste Hilfe?
Now for some HUD on gameplay. I think Battlefield 5 has a problem with the HUD. Too much stuff is on the screen at any one point, and although people might think that all the stuff you're seeing is essential, it really isn't. Take a look at these screenshots from BF4 compared to BF5. There's far less clutter on the BF4 one, it's clearer, and in my opinion, much better. Even little things like the kill feed showing the name of the gun instead of the icon is just my preference. That's what I'd prefer to see, and hopefully DICE takes some of this stuff on board, because people are reflecting my thoughts in the forums and DICE may change it. DICE need to consider turning some of the HUD options down in Battlefield 5 and maybe giving the user options to remove, move and alter the HUD. If I want to have something slightly different, I want to be able to change it. I've worked out that you can already change the colour of your HUD quite extensively. As you can tell, I tried to go for the BF4 colours but didn't quite get the orange right. I didn't mess around with it for long, to be fair. However, I want the option to change the size and position of everything on the screen, mainly those skulls. I do quite like the idea of seeing how many people you've killed in one line, but it would be nice if I could move it, because it's just in the way of the screen and there's an animation on it too. It's just too intrusive. What do you think of Battlefield 5 so far? Do you think it's a better looking game than BF1? I'd say it's looking promising. So far it's not quite there, but it does look fantastic. Of course, performance will be improved for the main game. This is an alpha, people forget. Alphas are not supposed to be a finished product. They're not even the beta yet, you know, they're nowhere near the full build of the game. Thanks for watching guys, hopefully you enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next video.